Welcome, World of Warcraft fans, to another episode of Casual Encounters. This is episode 6.1. Um, so, today I would like to talk about something that's come up um, in some conversations regarding mobility and all the mobility that some people have during raids and dungeons and all this other stuff. Blizzard's been talking about perhaps, removing some of the mobility. Um, I think some specific things they were talking about were things like the lightning bolt or something like that, I think, on shamans and whatever. Just, that whole thing where they don't like this idea that they don't like the idea that there's no choice. Um, you're not making really a choice when you're standing in something bad, and you have to choose whether to take the hit from that bad or continue DPSing. I guess they kind of feel is you should have to move or have a choice to be made. You should be losing something if you're moving. Um, and I kind of I agree with that. I agree with that. Um, because what they're saying is like with the shaman's lightning bolt is that it's not a choice. Yeah, you move and you lightning bolt and you go. Of course you would do that. That you're not losing anything by making that move. So what they're thinking about is taking away a lot of the mobile damage. I guess mostly from the ranged. You know. Um, mostly. And, maybe they won't do so much for hunters. They're going to try to, because, let's say that's just who they are. That's they're an attack class, or they're not really a spell casting class. They're like a ranged attack power class. So it gives them that uniqueness of being able to move and, continue DPSing at the same time. That kind of makes things a little tricky, though. And the reason I say that is because then that means that a hunter, um, if they can continue doing the same DPS as their normal output while moving, let's say, they're either going to have an advantage over other range classes who have to stop and run and start casting again, or it will mean that when everybody's standing still, that they'll be at a disadvantage. Now, I guess that's okay if they can make the fights, have a good percentage of fights that some are standstill, patchwork type, or it's just pure out DPS, and maybe the hunters won't do as well. And then maybe the other ones will do better. But in most fights where there's a lot of mobility, hunters will do a little bit better. That's tough. It's really, I guess that's really a tough balance to achieve. And I guess it's the same with the melee, right? They have a lot of things where they got to move out of the way. They got to get out of the bosses. Immediate cleaves and all kinds of stuff. Make sure they're behind and make sure that they're moving at the right time. So it's tricky, and all I can really think of, like, do they want to keep the uniqueness of all the classes so that in different situations that different classes will do better in certain situations than other? That's fine, as long as they can keep those situations evenly balanced throughout raids. If you have a 10 boss raid or whatever, and it'll be evenly distributed. So melee will be better, some spell casters will be better, some hunters will be better, whatever. If they can keep that balance throughout, and that'll give, I guess, the really hardcore world first races. It'll give them that min-max thing where they can stack certain classes. Mind you, I don't really think that's great, but that's their thing, right? That's what they do. They put a lot of time and effort into these world first. You know, they all have these different classes. They all run multiple alts so that they can have the perfect, you know, comp every time for every different boss. And I guess if they want to make that game, if that's what Blizzard wants, that's fine. They can do it that way. If they want to make it so that, you know, it's sort of fair across the board, I would say the best way to do it is to, when they're creating all of the class, you know, abilities, you know, they should be all tested on, you know, whatever their target dummies or whatever they use for testing. I'm not exactly sure how they do it, but let's just say for this theoretical target dummy, and that you know, they have, obviously they would have, you know, testers who would know every class and be able to, I would assume anyway, that these people would be able to know all the different classes and you know, be able to you know, put out that sort of maximum amount of, or close to it anyway, maximum amount of damage on target dummy. So it would be, I guess what they would do is start there and, you know, totally just standing still and just maximum output, and make sure that all of the DPS classes, I suppose, would have a pretty even amount, you know, output. Pure DPS, stand still, smack the target dummy, boom, just, you know, all right out. Should be, everybody should be pretty even there. Then what they need to do is, now remember, I'm talking now, if Blizzard wanted to make every fight even for everybody, make sure that it's totally balanced. At this point, what they would have to do is, once they get that first thing done, make sure that everybody on single, you know, that immediate pure DPS is all even. Then they need to go, when they're doing their boss encounters, what they need to do next is make sure that, you know, every class, or it's like every role, perhaps needs to, you know, has moved around the same amount, so that they're all able to put out that sort of same amount of DPS, regardless of which role you're playing, regardless of which class you're playing. And they would, you know, test it by, you know, the melee, for example, would have to, you know, move out of something that the boss puts down around them, some kind of AoE effect, and they'd have to move out of the way. And of course the range would, like, always have to move for other things that are coming out farther for the range. So regardless of where you're standing, you know, there would be sort of like this even amount of movement that they would be able, that they have to do, and would make it so that, you know, everybody would be able to sort of put out that same amount of DPS in any given situation. Now, I imagine that would be really, really hard, and I think there is something to say about sort of uniqueness to classes. So I guess it's just really a matter of, how do you want the game? How does Blizzard, how did the community, how does everybody? Now, I'm sure if the different people you ask will all have different opinions of this, and I would say that every opinion is valid. So if you are a hardcore player, you're going to say, no, man, I want every class to be individual. I want every class to be unique, because these guys, they're in world first race. They're willing to put in the effort. They're willing to make the ults. They're willing to do everything that they can to gain that advantage over everybody else. That means they probably have ults of multiple different classes, melee, ranged, you know, hunters, rogues, whatever, mages, warlocks, everything that, you know, that they can have for every possibility, you know, to account for any possible boss mechanic, so that they can stack certain ones. Now, I know that Blizzard says that they're going to try to add in some mechanics so that, you know, especially with the mythic stuff, you know, the mythic stuff is supposed to be tailored to basically having every class. Now, are they going to do this for every boss? is every boss going to require every class, or does it just mean like throughout an over a whole raid you will require every class? So even that, you know, because if they do it for every boss, then well, then they'll probably have like one of every class and then stack whatever other class is most useful on that particular boss, I suppose. So if that's the way that they want the game to be played, that's great. You know, again, it's very valid. And then again, another valid point is, should regardless of what class you play, if you're a casual player who just likes to focus on one main tune, should you be disadvantaged in certain fights just because you have a certain class? And I guess obviously for any casual player, they would probably say no. I don't want to be disadvantaged on certain fights because I'm a melee, or because I'm a warrior, or because I'm a rogue, or because I'm a hunter, or you know, if they do, like I was talking about earlier, if they do that certain thing where, you know, hunters maybe are great on the move but not great in a, you know, not the best DPS on a patchwork type of, you know, just stand still and DPS the crap out of the boss type deal. You know, someone in every fight might not be too happy. So it's a really hard thing to balance. You know, and then I guess they are probably already have, I mean, this has always been an issue in PvP, right? Because everybody wants to be completely 100% balanced. And I guess with PvP, there's probably a lot of rock, paper, scissors going on, I guess, you know, where, you know, this class can beat this class, but then that class can beat this class, but then that class can beat that first class. I don't know. I'm not a huge PvPer, but I kind of felt like that's sort of how it is with PvP. And maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe it's completely and totally 100%, you know, talent based. So you're just a better player. You're just going to beat the other person, and that's it. That's all, regardless of what class you're playing, how well you know your class. And I'm sure that's huge. That's a huge part of it, I'm sure. But it's a really interesting thing to say. I mean, Blizzard wants to take away the mobility because they just don't feel that it's... They feel that you really should have to make a choice when moving out of something bad. So you either move out of that bad, stop DPSing, or keep DPSing and take a hit. And then, you know, there's the whole thing where there's some people... A lot of classes will have like maybe cooldowns which will allow you to move, do your mobile things. They kind of feel that's okay, you know, if you kind of have a cooldown that lets you move. You know, I don't know. I figure the way I see it is either you can kind of just sort of let everybody move. You know, you can either have it so that, you know, as long as, let's say for example, you have melee, if they stand behind the boss all the time, they won't have to give up any DPS. And ranged, you know, you can have it so that they have to move, but maybe they have mobility. Okay, so you can do it that way, or you could say, okay, either or take away the range mobility and have the melee have to move out of stuff, and it's all even, and then you just, you know, you determine the boss's health on those things. You know, so if you make it, if you want that game, I kind of like the idea of having to move and not being able to, you know, cast. I mean, instance. They're talking about taking some instant stuff away, which I don't think that's really necessary, because I don't think instant casts are there. First of all, they're not super powerful, right? Most of the time. And it's an alternate way for a ranged person to do a little bit of DPS while they're moving, without, let's say, having something to have to worry about, you know, some cooldown or something to hit, you know, so that you can move and continue your big spells. So I mean, that's some crazy balancing act to do. I don't know. It's really I like to simplify it. I think I like the idea of people having to move, not being able to do damage while they move, and it simplifies things. You know, it's like, okay, here's your trade-off. You get out of the junk, you get out of the fire, or take damage. Not, well, I can move and continue doing damage anyway. And same with melee, either I get away from that boss and stop doing damage while he's got his little AoE thing on the ground, and then I go back, and then I start DPSing again. It's simpler. It's and you know, this all kind of ties into this whole button bloat thing that they want to take care of, because there's like just way too many things that I find is just way too many things, too many buttons. It would be nice for it to be a little simpler. Again, I'm a casual player, right? As I've mentioned many times, I'm a casual player. I like, you know, simplicity. But again, as a hardcore person, you want every advantage you can get. You play many hours. You dedicate many hours to being the best. And I can totally relate. Maybe not relate. I should say I get it. I can totally get that if you put that time and effort in to be the best, you want to be able to be the best. And I get that. I totally get that. But at the same time, I think there's a huge amount of people out there who would like it maybe to be just a little bit simpler. So they might prefer that you have to stop that DPS, just move, get out of the way, or if your healers can handle it, stand in it, continue DPSing. That's going to be really dependent on your healers. And that's where the trade-off could be, you know. Either you can take the damage and continue your DPS or not. So, and again, like I said, if you can continue doing your little instant cast that maybe cause a little bit of damage while you move, that's okay too. You know, you're still giving something up. You're giving up that, you know, that huge freaking crit that you would for casting, and you trade it up for moving out of the fire, and you know, maybe a quick couple of little shots. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think they really need to. I like the idea of, you know, simplifying it so that there's less buttons, less to worry about. Oh, where's that button? You know, so I guess it's really all in how good you are at having all these buttons, and you knowing your key bindings and all that stuff. And like I said, these really hardcore players will know all this. They can game it. They can, you know, they can change classes. They can do all this stuff. And all the casual players just sort of have to deal with it. So yeah. So that's pretty much what I have to say about that. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment. As usual, if you would like to you know, contact me, you can go right here, wowonmymind@gmail.com. If that little guy is here, there should be a guy here. He might be over here somewhere. I don't know. But looking for a little picture of my mage, please subscribe. You can look me up on Nazgrel, the server, the realm Nazgrel. I have my druid Power Shift and my mage Idamit, which is Timothy spelled backwards. And I recently created a paladin, which I got up to level 60, hoping the level 90 boosts are going to come in this week, but it looks like it's going to be a little farther down the road. Not too far. They said it's coming soon. And really for soon. Not the trademark Blizzard soon. It's supposed to be coming really soon, so hopefully it'll come in. I made that on Nestingwary, which is connected to my other realm, Nazgrel. So you can check that out. That's Paltima, Paltima. And as usual, please have fun playing World of Warcraft, and have a good day.